So I'm just going to give you the basic lowdown, kind of Drupal lingo that you'll need to get going at any level, and then we're going to build a content type and a view, and then you guys can really see how well Drupal's able to handle lots of content, and we'll walk through an install as well, because I know that can be kind of the most discouraging part of getting started. So this is me. I'm 17. I have been working with Drupal for 3 years, and right now I work for a company based in the city called Digital Rhino, and we're a consulting firm, and we work, you'll see who we work with on the next page. I work, right now I'm doing mainly back-end development, custom module development, but also I do some theming. And don't yell at me, but I'm a WordPress core contributor, and I work on the hidden APIs in WordPress, which is basically their undocumented functions that really advanced developers can use to further WordPress itself. But I actually haven't built a WordPress site in over a year, so that's interesting. So Digital Rhino, we're based in the city. We have awesome clients. I actually live in Connecticut, so I'm remote. But we work with the Stock Exchange, Major League Soccer, and Isobar. So I'm called the Baby Rhino. So yeah, that's kind of like the story of my life. And so here's what we're gonna cover today. Basically, why would you choose Drupal over an easier solution? Really the core of Drupal and getting that set up, because it's oftentimes you get stuck and you have this error message that won't go away. Modules and custom modules versus contrib modules, the theme layer, and then lastly we're going to set up and install Drupal and build a content type. So why Drupal? I mean, my thing is everyone's using it. So there's this awesome community, as you can see here, and just go on like api.drupal.org and groups.drupal.org, and you'll really see why you would choose this over another solution. It's incredibly scalable. Some of the largest websites in the world are using Drupal right now, and it's very extensible in terms of scalability, so it moves out across multiple servers and multiple database servers really, really smoothly. Which a lot of PHP-based systems don't. It's flexible, so whether you're running a blog or theeconomist.com, it's really kind of made to do its thing in any situation. And I guess one thing that stems from that is that a lot of people sometimes don't think they need Drupal, so they go with WordPress or something, and they want to grow out later, and they're kind of stuck where they have nowhere to go. And so this flexibility is kind of what's inherently incredible about Drupal. So here's the basic. A node, just think of a node as a kind of piece of content that you can display in tons of different ways across your site. So a node can be, this is an event node on a site that we're working on right now for Chamber Music of America. So this is just an event node. It contains all the information that someone's entered when you go in to enter content. And Drupal stores that as a record in the database. So later when we start using views, you'll see that you'll be able to pull any of these fields out of the database and display them back in different ways, which makes it extremely powerful. Here's Hallie, Director of Business Development at Digital Rhino. And so you can take that node and turn it into a page. So basically, this page acts as a compilation of nodes. So we can rearrange this, we can group items based on date, as you can see they are here. So this, we sort ascending, or rather descending, and sort by date. So you can do that kind of stuff, and that's all done with views. So a content type is basically how you encapsulate all of the different things. So say you could have a bunch of different content types across your site. So anywhere from an event to a blog post, to a page, to something more complex. And you can also create taxonomies, which we'll work on, and you can categorize content. And you can categorize content across all your content types. Yeah. Yeah, these are just small, so let me just see. Let's see how that does. Is that a little better? Okay. How about that? Let's try. Oh boy. Okay. I'm just going to go back to the first setting. Let's see. Okay, we're stuck here for a minute. There's only a few more slides, so that's okay. So the first thing you're going to do when you install Drupal after you set up your database and everything is you're going to install some modules because you're going to need these to start going. And modules really fall into two classes. Contributed modules, which are modules that a developer or a group of developers work on. They're awesome because they get extended really quickly. So whereas you might have one developer working on a custom module, some of the more complex contrib modules, as they're called in the community, have thousands of contributors, so you can really build out awesome stuff. On the other hand, custom modules aren't often used to really like build out basic functionality, but they're more used to glue different parts of the site together. So say you need to change the way a form field displays, you might have to write a module to do that. And you can do something brand new, style forms, and they're generally, I would say, always a custom module is started at least by an in-house development team or a single developer. So here are, I hope you guys, can everyone read that? Can I zoom? Nope. Okay, I will read it. CCK, which is Content Construction Kit, it's how you can create new form fields on a new content type. Views, which is how it's essentially a query, like graphic query system. Image cache, which lets you alter images on the fly and change crop. You can do even cooler things with the GD image library with image cache. And that works with Image API, which lets you extend the image, kind of image handling in Drupal in a custom module. Image field, which just allows you to add a field for an image. Path auto, which allows you to actually configure custom paths based on a whole bunch of variables that they supply to you. We'll get into that later. Node import, that's how you're going to likely get your content from your old site into your new site. Token, which has a variety of uses, which we'll get into a bit later, hopefully. It's just a little too complicated to explain right here. Actions, which lets you kind of do like a condition and then Drupal will respond in some way, and you can extend actions in a custom module. Almost all of these have APIs. Rules, which has the same kind of thing to handle routing requests and other things like that. Devel and Coder work together, and they're just a suite of tools to help you just more easily kind of get going and get coding. And some of these they're systems to find kind of like arrays and variables to generate dummy content, which we'll do. And there's just, it's a nice suite to kind of help a developer get going and really get into the insides of Drupal. Content profile, this is a little bit more advanced, but if you want to create a community-driven site or a site with user accounts, you can use content profile to do this. And it's awesome because your profile is normally just stored as fields attached to your user, and content profile actually lets you go in and add add profile as a custom content type, so then you can use the thousands of modules out there that alter content types on your profile. Does anyone have a question about that? It's a little complicated. Okay. Flag lets users flag content. That's also great for community site to kind of build things out, let people do favorites or something like that. It's also really extensible. Organic groups lets you group users in different ways. It's awesome, for example, if you built a project management system, you could group users using organic groups. Login Toboggan is a great module. I don't think I've ever worked on a Drupal site without it. It's configurable so that you can have a whole variety of options. Drupal by default emails the user. This is just an example, but Drupal by default emails the user that they have a new account and gives them a dummy password. Login Toboggan will let them choose their own password, so you can avoid that step. And it's just a nice way to get going with a community kind of site. Context lets you take different arguments, kind of like paths or taxonomy or content types, and Drupal will react with those. We'll get into that one as well. And then the last one is panels, which lets you place different items on the page in different ways. So you can place blocks into different grid styles. Also, I mean, all of these are extremely extensible. They're really highly community driven. So before we get into the next part, I just want to touch on if you're going to hire a developer. Just with my experience, anyone who calls himself a ninja is probably actually going to kick you in the face because, I mean, like, it's just kind of one of those things that a self-described ninja probably isn't the greatest person to work with. They're probably just a less than ideal team member. So I would say hire the person who kind of stands out and is strong but not a ninja. So now we're going to kind of do a Drupal installation. So on my Mac, I use MAMP. But if you're using Windows, you can use XAMPP, which is XAMPP, or WAMP, which is WAMP. And those install, the first letter is Linux normally in the LAMP stack, which is what Drupal is. But when you use Windows, it's WAMP because you have Windows, or MAMP because you have Mac. And then Apache, MySQL, and PHP, Python, or Perl. Drupal uses PHP. So I'm just going to duplicate this directory. So this is the root of my install. If you read the README document in any of those systems that I just told you about, they will explain how to set your root. You can do all of that kind of stuff. Let me just... And so I'm just going to, so in here, you can set all the hosts. So as you'll see in a second, I'm going to set, sorry, it gets cut off. I'm going to set a host so that I can really easily access my website with clean URLs. So first what I'm going to do is I always keep a directory of fresh Drupal in my site root so that I can just go duplicate it once it's done. And then I'll name it like Western Mass. And so this is where all our modules are going to get installed. It's where all of our themes will be. And so then I'm just going to go add a host in here. So let's just call this Western Mass. And then I just choose, there are different systems to do this, but I'm just using Mac as an example. So let me just go to Western Mass, and then I just choose that. So yeah, so this is the graphic user interface of MAMP. This is MAMP Pro. On the normal MAMP, you can't actually set your hosts, so I really recommend MAMP Pro. Otherwise, you're going to run into some system configuration issues when you first install Drupal. So then it's just going to ask you for your password. And then you'll be able to go Western. It runs on a different port, which is what's declared after this colon. So it just runs on a different port so that it doesn't conflict with any other servers you're running on your computer. So this is the first screen, which seems pretty easy. So I would assume you're going to install Drupal in English. It's also, there are other language frameworks, so you can install those as well. Then you get this, which the first time I installed Drupal, I have no idea like what that means. I think this is the most painful screen in all of Drupal ever, because it tells you to copy this file, and it doesn't really tell you how, because there's no, at least in Windows, Linux, you have to go into the terminal, or you have to open it, copy and paste, and then put it into a new settings file, and then change file permissions. That seems a little complicated. I mean, not anymore, but it seems complicated here, where you're like, oh, make this file writable by my web server? That doesn't make sense. So let's just walk through this step. So in here, almost all of your everything that you're going to change to Drupal is going to go into sites, all if you're going to install a module, a theme, or a library, and default for settings and files. So I'm going to give you Mac, and then I will also do it on the command line if you're using Linux. So if you want to just go in here and duplicate, and then name this settings.php, and then I just went file info, and I want to make this read and write by everyone. So now you'll see we've appeased the Drupal gods, and they're now going to let us continue. So let me just, nope, okay. Okay, we're going to take an alternative route. So now I'm going to create that database that I want, and this is an awesome tool for Mac that's called SQL Pro, and it lets you connect to your local and do things like alter the database, create new databases, import databases, and it's a much better tool than phpMyAdmin, which is what most initial users will be working with. So I'm just going to name this database Western Mass, and then I'll just close SQL Pro. So Western Mass. The database username is root on MAMP, and the same for XAMPP as well. And the password is also root. So then if you click Save and Continue, or you hit Enter, it will run through the install. So let's just watch that take place. This is the best page to see. It means you got through that without your server crashing or anything like that. So now I'm just going to I'm just going to use admin and admin as the password. So clean URLs, if I didn't set up clean URLs, I would have before every URL right here, I would have $Q equals. So this is really bad for SEO, and it's also really annoying when you're trying to get to a certain path. So I would highly recommend turning on clean URLs. It will save you a lot of pain in the end. So, okay, so it's all set. So now you get to this page, and you can't really do much with a base Drupal install. You can make a page, you can create a page or an article. So here, let's go here. Or a page or a story, rather. So a page is just like a page. It's just straight content being printed out. And a story is kind of like, think of it as a blog post or an article. It's just a kind of a smaller sub-story. You don't really need to worry about these yet. So now if I go into Administer, you're going to need to install a whole bunch of modules. So there's a tool to actually do this. Let me just... You want to try a tool called Drush. And it's a shell tool for Drupal, where you can run Drupal-specific commands like installing modules, things like that. And I actually, if I show you my Drush file, here's one that I made for today. So I have one of these kinds of files that says Drush DL and then all the modules that I use. I have a much larger one that I run every time I install Drupal. So Drush will make your life so much easier. It will let you update modules on the fly, and it's just an amazing tool. Saves you so much time having to go to the Drupal.org page and download individual modules. So if I run this right now, if all goes as planned, okay, so now I'm just going to paste the first line of this in. Also, I'm going to put this up. I'll put up my high-level one. If you go, I'll post a URL at the end. But you'll be able to download this so you guys can have all these modules that I'm talking about. So now if I just paste this into there and I hit enter, it's going to ask me if I want to create this folder because it doesn't exist by default. So I just type Y and hit enter. And then hopefully the internet is fast enough to handle this. I guess we'll see. Okay, so it's working away. So it's going to download all these into the folder that I set, which is sites all modules contrib. I just try to organize my modules in the most logical way. Everyone kind of has their own system. So just make sure that all the modules you install live in sites all modules. Don't install them straight into the modules folder. You'll run into major problems. So that's going to take a little while. But you'll see that the modules will start populating this page. So these are ones I just drushed, as we call it. Let's see. So basically, all it's doing is going to the Drupal repositories where all of the Drupal code is kept and downloading it from there to our site that we're going to build right now. So as it does this, let's go over here. I'm just preliminarily going to create a new content type, if it's going to allow me to. Yes, so I can add a content type. So let's just call this content type, let's call it event. And then this is, so the name, this is also confusing. It explains it, but it's not the best way. So the name can have spaces, it can have whatever you want, however you need to describe it to yourself and to your users, that's in the name, and that's totally up to you. The type is machine name, so this is all lowercase, underscores, and no crazy characters. Keep them out of there because it's going to make your life a lot harder in the end. And then a description if you want, so like create an event or conference. And then I just save this content type. Okay, so now we've done that, and I have a second command that will download a nice administrative theme. Again, it's going to ask me if I want to create the themes folder, and then it's going to download these two. The Drupal admin theme is incredibly difficult to get around, so I would highly recommend downloading Rubik, which is an admin theme that will basically make your life a lot easier. You'll see it's much nicer to get around, and you're also going to want administration menu. And this is you'll see that as well once I set these modules up, that it will, so we're going to go from this, and we're going to change the administration theme to Rubik. And I'm also going to use this for content editing. So if you check this checkbox, it's going to allow you to use this nice theme when you create content, which is something you'll definitely want to do. It's just much nicer. So now we're here, and we'll get some warnings like cron has not run. We can fix that pretty easily. You just run cron manually. You'll automatically get that warning when you first install Drupal. So now we have this nice theme, and we have all of our modules. So I'm just going to go turn on these modules. So administration theme, content. You can just read these descriptions, and you'll know which ones you'll need. So field group I know I need. I need node reference, numbers, options. So I'm just going to go through and do this. Shouldn't take too long. I'm not going to show you guys the devel module. So actually, pointing out login toboggan rules integration is really important because that kind of shows how you're going to start gluing all of these modules together in a really interesting way to build out your site. So a lot of modules actually have something like this where they'll integrate with another relevant module. So login toboggan integrates with rules, and you can create special scenarios under which login toboggan will activate things like that. We'll also see that. Okay, and then we want views and views UI. So a lot of these systems, especially these really large modules, have the core module, like for say views, and then views UI, and just make sure that you turn on both the UI and the core module, because otherwise you will not be able to access views. It will basically just be to run existing views, which is going to be a problem if you're just getting started on a new site. So continue. Does anyone have any questions at this point? No? Okay. It's going to write a whole bunch of changes to the database. And then you'll see this is the administration menu. And now we can go over to our content type and manage the fields. So this is going to be a really basic example. But what I'm going to do is create a content type. So this is going to be a basic event. It's not going to have any dates. It's just going to have a description, and Drupal will handle the title. So let's just try description. So here's an interesting thing as well. So when you name this field, when you get more advanced and you want to pull this field out of the database into a template so you can display it on your site, you need to make sure that this field name is relevant so that you can go and find it. So what I usually do is field underscore is automatically there, and then I name it the content type, and then I do another underscore and describe the field that I'm making. So then I have this system, and I can go without having to look in my backend which field I'm trying to find. So this saves a lot of time. So let's just call this text, and then it's a text area. And I'll just make one more just so that we understand. So I'm just going to make a decimal. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's just name this decimal. And then event decimal. So what I'm going to do is actually turn on, there's this great module that will make a whole bunch of nodes for me of that. So it will generate nodes. So then when I want to go do things and build my small view, I'll be able to have a whole bunch of content to work with. So that's great if you're working with a client or a company, and before you get content, you can generate this content. And then there's also a system to remove all your generated content. So let's just find devel generate. Okay. And so then we can just close this out and save our configuration again. And then we'll get another option up here, generate items. So I'm just going to generate content, and I'm going to generate 50 nodes of the type event. So all it's going to do is just take lorem ipsum, like just straight Greek, and it's going to make 50 nodes of that. And there's a whole bunch of configuration options you can also use. So we'll get into aliasing as well. But I always check that box because it will make my life easier. So now if I go to content and I list out all the content, you'll see that it made a whole bunch of events for me. And if I go here, I can see it made a description and it generated a random decimal. So now I can start working and building my view. So let's just go over here to view, and I'm just going to add a view. Okay, so same thing. These helpers over here are awesome. So views, what you want is the name, it's kind of a reversal, but the name is the machine name. So I'm just going to call this events. And then I'm going to say like events listings. And I would choose nodes. So all of these view types, in the beginning at least, will likely be will likely be nodes rather. So just make sure that you choose node. You can do more advanced things with users and also node revisions, and that's really great stuff. But just getting fields onto the page, you're going to want to choose node. So now we're here, and there's a lot of options on this page. Most of them we're not going to worry about. So the first one, and a few of them are self-explanatory. So let's just name this, the title is going to be events. And then I'm just going to choose fields. Fields just displays out a field. So I'm going to go over to my fields area over here, and I'm going to choose to display the fields as I kind of walk through. Node, on the other hand, lets you build out a custom template in PHP and then display that back. Ajax will let you handle paging, so I'm actually going to turn that on. And use pager, we're going to display all 50 of our nodes, so we're going to use paging because we only have 10 items per page. So Drupal will infinitely just create as many pages as needed. So now let's just choose a field. So on a big site, you could have hundreds of these, but on here, we just have 2. So I'm just going to add both of these, and then just click Add. And this is one of the cool things when displaying numbers is I can choose the format and how many decimals by which I display this number. So I'm just going to choose this format because I know that our numbers are working properly. And then I'm going to say price. You can put in whatever you want for that label. Then it's going to show me the next one, which is description. So then I'm just going to, it's automatically going to use the widget label description here. So then I'm just going to hit update, and here we go. So now it's putting out all of our data here, and it'll list out all of these, and then it will do paging. So the next thing to do, is everyone with me at this point? I'm moving fast. I don't have that much time left. Is we need to create a display type. So you get a block, a feed. A block is just a block that you can display in a region on your site. A feed creates an RSS or Atom feed. An attachment will append this view to other content. And a page will allow you, sorry, I hit the wrong one. A page will display all of this out onto a page. So I'm going to choose page, and then I'm going to set the path to be events. And then I'm just going to save that. And then I'm going to go and view my page. So here are all of the, I should actually edit this view so that we have a title as well. Otherwise, it's just blobs of content. That's all fine, in fact. Okay, that's okay. So now it's paging, and so when I hit next, it will that's Ajax. So if you guys just saw that request where when I hit this next button, without reloading the page, it pulled in the next group of content. So when I hit this next button, if you watch, it without reloading. So this is kind of the way the web is going is Ajax. Facebook is covered in Ajax, and that's the reason why it feels so fluid when you move throughout it is they never reload the page. They just pull in new content on the same page. And that's awesome for user experience. So we love Ajax. So this is just a really basic view. Yeah?
Is there a way to turn off the HTML?
Yeah. I can actually do that. It's in the content type. You can actually set, it assumes that you are, excuse me. It assumes that if you just choose a regular text area that you're not going to include any HTML. So let's just go back over here, go to events. There you go. So now these are long. You can set up teasers, but I want to have some time for questions, and I have about 10 minutes left. So, so this is basically a very brief overview. We just walked through the basic modules, which I will put back up on the screen in case anyone still needs to copy. And I'm going to post all of this later tonight to so you'll be able to grab my Drush script, my presentation, and I'll also include a zipped up version of this site and the database. So you'll have a starting point. Questions?
Can you show, you know how you said you start with kind of the base and your root? Can you show the content of that?
Sure. So right here, my root is, the lowest kind of level of your site. It's where the web server is going to look for a file named index.html or index.php, on Apache that is. And so when you type in here, you type in Western Mass : 8888, it's going and finding event.php in my root, or rather index.php in my root, and then this file distributes out requests. So this is my root right here. Every Drupal site has these exact same folders and files in their root. It's kind of a common starting point, and we avoid as much as possible. Actually, I would say under no circumstances should you ever edit any of these files unless you are a Drupal core committer. And I would say you never edit any files that aren't in the sites folder. Because what I did here is my themes live here. So if I create a new custom theme, I'm obviously going to be editing it. But just try, never, ever, ever alter the core of Drupal. You will never be able to update your site if you do that. And I just saw in the presentation upstairs, I believe that there are 251 hook places where you can write a custom module to output content in different ways and to alter the way Drupal acts before any page content gets displayed. So really the API system, the way that you can write a custom module for Drupal, is so powerful that you should never edit, you should never have to edit the primary files that run the Drupal system. Did that answer your question? Okay. Anyone else? Cool. Thanks, guys. Yes. There you go. Sorry, my last name's kind of hard to spell and pronounce. It's actually not that hard to spell now that I think about it, though. Thanks, guys. And also, if you have any questions / comments, feel free to email me at my email address. I'll swiftly respond to your question.